People, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year to all my people. 2025 has arrived, which means 2024 is over. It's done in the books. But although it is over, 2024 was one of the biggest roller coaster years of my life. It was my first full year as a professional wrestler. And I kind of wanted to just sit down and yap for a little bit about all the stuff that went down in 2024, a lot of the highlights and some of the stuff that I'm sure a lot of you probably aren't even aware of. And towards the end, I'm also going to talk about, you know, kind of the future of the channel and how that stuff is looking. So maybe get comfy. Also, before I forget, wapow! New merch drop for 2025 is live. It's our first merch drop of the year, and we're calling this one the Minimalist Drop. We all know wrestling shirts can be a little rough sometimes. So I wanted to kick things off with a design that's, you know, simple, clean, and anybody can wear. Also, the official It's Not a Game Anymore shirt that's only been available at wrestling shows up until now is live on the site. That's shopdanger.net. That's my official merch site. We're going to be cycling through a lot of stuff throughout the year. I'm really excited about it. So I'd appreciate you guys checking it out, and you know, maybe go grab a little something. Maybe grab a hoodie, got comfy hoodie, maybe a shirt. I don't know. You do you. All right, let's start from the jump. Early 2024, I was coming off my professional wrestling debut a few weeks prior against Shawn Spears at DPW, in which I sliced a hole in my arm that remains and will remain with me through my whole life. That's real. So about 2 months after that was my second match, in which I teamed with NXT legend Tyler Breeze, who also happens to be my coach, one of the guys who trained me, and a very good friend. And we teamed up to take on the Workhorsemen from AEW / Ring of Honor. So anybody that followed DPW from the early days knows that myself and the Workhorsemen never really seen eye to eye. But unfortunately, in the match, it turned basically into a 2v1 when Breeze got banged up pretty bad. And I proceeded to get the living shit beat out of me by two of the hardest hitters in professional wrestling. But if there's one thing I can guarantee about Chris Danger, his ass is always going to get back up, whether or not he should. I don't care if it's a hole in my arm. I don't care if it's a ass whooping beyond recognition. So from there, I made my first non-DPW appearance at MLW's Battle Riot show, and I got to squabble with Suzuki, Cruel, Timothy Thatcher. Like, it's impossible to put that moment into words, because like that's Suzuki, bro. So that was definitely a highlight of my year for sure. I had a great time working at MLW. They were very, very welcoming, very organized. We actually had a few more appearances that we were trying to lock in for later in 2024. They just didn't line up. But I did have a great time there. I really appreciated everybody being so welcoming. I'm still getting over a cold, if you couldn't tell, by the way. Sorry about that. But as I'm like going through Gorilla getting ready to come out, there was a guy sitting at the table with like a laptop because the show was being live streamed on MLW's YouTube, which was like one of the biggest reasons that they invited me, because that was their first like, you know, dive into a YouTube stream like that. So the guy's looking at his laptop, I guess like modding the chat or whatever, and he happens to look up when I'm there and he goes, "Oh, you're the guy everybody's talking about." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" Because that can mean so many different things. And he turns the computer to me to show me the chat, and it's just, "We want Danger. Let's go Danger. I'm here to see Danger. I can't wait for Danger to come out, blah, 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 blah." And I thought that was just the coolest shit ever. Like, when I get ready for matches, my adrenaline, anxiety, and emotion, and everything are at max. So I almost started like tearing up. And that's just because at that time there's so many things, like everything's running crazy. I was like smacking myself in the face trying to like get back in the zone, because I was like, oh shit, that's so sick. That's special to me, because as a wrestler, that's what you want. You want the people putting on the show to be like, yeah, it was a good idea bringing that out. You know what I mean? Like, the reason you bring in a Chris Danger is because I can bump engagement. I can get people talking about the show. I can get eyes on the show. That's why you book Chris Danger. You're not booking him for, you know, a technical classic 5-star. Not yet, anyway. Give me a little time. But you put Danger on your show because you want more people to watch your show. And seeing that validation happen like in real time was very important to me, because these doubts that hang over me at all times can be pretty tough, because no one criticizes me more than me. So again, seeing that real-time validation felt really good. So a few weeks after that, I was back in DPW for my second ever singles match against my former tag partner, Tyler Breeze. So I have the match with Breezy, who I trust and respect to the highest degree. And I end up getting my first win as a professional wrestler, or over a WWE superstar. And I finally started to feel like, okay, like I'm here now. This is for real. It's obviously been for real since day one, but getting that first victory really like motivated me to continue to take it and push it even further. Basically, like, as far as I can possibly take it now. So after the Breeze match, I took a little bit of time, maybe a little bit over a month, maybe like a month and a half, to kind of just reset my body a little bit. I was feeling a little rough. It wasn't necessarily from the matches themselves, because it's not like I was having, 70 matches. I think it was more so the buildup of training all the time, lifting all the time. This was all very new to my body. The first full year of training like an athlete, and I had to give it a little bit of time to correct itself, because your boy's not 22 anymore. But then came probably the highlight of my year, which was WrestleCade weekend. I'd put the victory over Breeze and WrestleCade weekend as like 1A and 1B. I had the opportunity to wrestle Speedball Mike Bailey at Firestar Pro Wrestling in North Carolina in like late November. If for whatever reason you don't know who Speedball Mike Bailey is, he's a former TNA X Division champion. To me, he is literally the bar for independent wrestling. Like, yeah, he was signed to TNA for a little while, but he kind of has been known to be everywhere. To me, he is legitimately like the backbone of independent wrestling. I legit consider him to be one of the best, smartest pro wrestlers in the business, period. And that match, which you can see in full, by the way, at dpwondemand.com. Check it out. It was one that I had wanted since I started doing all this, and being able to have his brain at my disposal for the night, I feel like I leveled up like 5 levels in one night. It was crazy. Not only that, but he was also very complimentary towards me after the match. Like he's a very nice guy. He's such a nice guy, easy to talk to, but he doesn't fuck around. Like, you don't wrestle your match, you wrestle Speedball's match. You know what I mean? And he said something afterwards like, 99% of people in this business who've had like less than 100 matches wouldn't have been able to do that kind of match with like that structure and that pressure. And I did it in my 3rd singles match, 5th overall. And he seemed genuinely impressed by that. So that felt incredible. Wrestling Speedball was a legitimate honor. And I'm glad I already got to do it, but at the same time, I'm praying we cross paths again when I'm a little deeper in, because just amazing. He's amazing. But that was only half the weekend, because the very next day was the WrestleCade convention. It is one of the biggest pro wrestling conventions around, and I had a table with Shelton Benjamin, which was sick because I loved watching him back in, like, I'm a fan of his, you know what I mean? And we're sharing a table, sitting there cracking jokes. I'm there with my little t-shirts and my 8x10s, like, what is going on, bro? But the most effed up thing possible happened to me that very morning. I get up out of bed, I go to take a piss, and I start walking, and I collapse. I couldn't put any weight on my ankle at all. I went to sleep in zero pain, and I woke up not being able to walk. So we're in panic mode. My girl's there trying to figure out what the hell we're gonna do, and we end up door dashing crutches, which I didn't know you could do, to the hotel room. And now I gotta hobble my ass through the hotel to the convention, through the convention, and get to the table. And I had never in my life been on crutches before. This is my first time in my life being on crutches. But as they say, the show goes on. So I get to the convention, and these dudes bring in legends and wrestling stars from everywhere, every company. Like people like Shelton Benjamin, Kurt Angle, the Hardy Boys, Mick Foley, Mickey James, Lita, like these types of names. And thanks to Kozone and Firestar, I had a table at WrestleCade that I got to share with Shelton Benjamin for people to come meet me / us. And I get there and I'm like, I'm probably gonna look a little stupid here. not because of the crutches, obviously, or whatever, but like, again, Shelton Benjamin is right next to me. Kurt Angle is 8 feet away at the table next to us. Hardy Boys are right around the corner. I thought I was gonna be sitting there like, how you doing? How's everybody doing? Oh, you Lita? Yeah, Lita's over there. Lita's over there. Bro, I had a line a decent amount of the time that I was there, which was like 4 or 5 hours. When I tell you I was beside myself at the amount of people who wanted to talk to me, get a picture with me, get autographed, buy a t-shirt, whatever. Like, I wish there was any sort of comparison that I can make to it, but it was the most incredible feeling ever. Everybody telling me their stories like, oh man, I've been watching you forever, or like, you know, you're why I started wrestling. I was at your debut match and all this stuff. It was just a tsunami of love and appreciation for what I've done for the past 10 years of my life. 10 years I've dedicated to YouTube content, wrestling content, and now wrestling in real life. So I was legit just cheesing the entire time. It was such an incredible day that I honestly will never forget for as long as I live. I hope I get to do, you know, thousands more conventions and meet and greets as time goes on, and I'm sure they'll all be just as special, but that first one, that'll stay with me forever. And from there, I went back home and had to stay off of my ankle for about 2 weeks. Couldn't really do a whole lot. And also I caught like super ultra COVID during that time. So my year ended on the couch watching Christmas movies, which is not the worst way to end a year, to be honest. It was genuinely one of the most memorable years of my life. Like, so many moments happened that I'll just look back on and be like, I did that shit. Like, I did that shit. And you can too. You can too. If my dumb ass can do it, you'll be all right. But that brings us to here and now and our next topic, which, as you can probably tell, the uploads have been very inconsistent this year, or I guess last year, technically. The least amount of videos that I ever uploaded in a year span, probably since I started, which I mentioned would be happening. I feel like I mentioned that a bunch of times just because of the fact that, like, I needed to put everything into training, you know, prepping, getting ready, all that stuff, trying to become a legitimate draw and force, you know, in the real wrestling world. Because at the end of the day, I don't have a WWE contract. I don't have an AEW contract. I'm not ID'd. You know, this is my job. So it is and always will be a priority in my life. It's how I keep the lights on. I don't really ever foresee a day where I will just up and quit YouTube. Even if I was on the road like 300 days a year, it would just be like vlogs and shit all the time. Just like me and Woods backstage before a match or some shit. With that being said, it's probably also no surprise when I say that I feel like I've kind of outgrown the current wrestling gaming meta, if you will. I've been uploading primarily the WWE 2K franchise for the better part of a decade. And now after a decade, really outside of like the Chris Danger, my career stuff, and certain modes and aspects in the game, outside of that, I really don't get much fulfillment from creating that type of content. That, of course, also plays a huge part in the consistency of uploads, because I've reached the point in my life where if it doesn't fulfill me, it's getting none of my energy. My energy is reserved for things that drive me and things that make me happy. And basically, I'd say for the last maybe 5 or 6 months, the things that I've uploaded are really only the things that I do like, if that makes sense. So like, if you're wondering what I mean, like, you can look at the content from the last few months. That's the wrestling shit that I like, and the type of stuff that I will continue to do. However, that's not enough, because unfortunately, when you're on the internet and you're a fame influencer or whatever, as an influencer, attention is currency. It's almost like just as important as a paycheck, almost. You know, uploading 2 times a month is not being a great or ideal influencer or creator or whatever. I've been a shitty influencer, I'd say, over this past year, but I want to change that. So in 2025, the DenkOps channel will be expanding beyond being a wrestling channel to being a wrestling / variety channel, which means wrestling content will be uploaded weekly in a matter TBD, to be determined. But on top of that, I will also be uploading stuff that I enjoy making, such as platinum trophy videos, yapping videos like this one. Sometimes I like to just sit down and get shit out, you know, like, this is my channel, why should I not do it here, you know? This, by the way, goes against everything that any YouTube guru or specialist would tell you to do. But I believe my situation is a little unique in the sense that I've been doing the same thing for so many years at this point. And thankfully, I've grown it to a pretty big number, to where I have a little room to kind of experiment. And if it doesn't work, I can always turn the bus around and head right back to the station and try again, you know? Whatever harm may come to the channel, like algorithm wise, for expanding the niche a little bit, to me is more acceptable than the alternative, which is just not trying shit and sitting in a rut and letting this channel just go to waste. And I do not want to do that. My life is essentially one long trial and error. So this kind of just feels like the right time for one more. My only ask, my only request is, if you are a sub to the channel or a viewer every now and then, or just a passerby, whatever, give that different type of content a chance. I know a lot of you guys, a good amount of you guys, are here for the wrestling content, which, as wrestling fans, that is completely understandable. I get it. But as more than that, as viewers and like fans of mine. I still that word still just feels weird for me to say, even after all these years. I just feel weird saying fans, regardless. Just know I'm putting the same time and effort into that other content as I do the wrestling content, sometimes even more so. So I know not every single video is gonna float the boat of all 1.6 million of you at once. Like, I understand that that's not how it works. But I hope that I've earned like some trust with you by now, that I'm always going to give you the best of me that I can. And that applies to the content that I upload and apply to content outside of the content that you've already seen. That's just kind of how I operate. I'm not looking for a way to, you know, make easier videos or whatever. I'm looking for an opportunity to bring you shit that I believe is just as good as that other stuff, if not better. This also means more live streams, which I've been planning for a while, and I do plan on multi-streaming across all the platforms: Twitch, YouTube, and maybe even TikTok. Like, I was looking at TikTok and I was like, I don't love that thought. I don't, but at the same time, like, kind of, I was talking about before, you really kind of just gotta be everywhere. But regardless, non-wrestling and wrestling streams will be multi-streamed consistently across all platforms, including this channel right here. And I have been yapping for a very long time. Holy shit. Okay. TLDR. 2024 was fantastic as a wrestler, shitty as an influencer. 2025 will be a better balance, but that includes expanding this channel beyond just wrestling content into wrestling and variety content. Weekly wrestling content is the goal, and weekly non-wrestling content is also the goal. Streaming across multiple platforms with a variety of content, both wrestling and non-wrestling, and I think that's everything. So I would greatly appreciate your support and open-mindedness during this trying time. No, this actually rules, and I'm really excited about being able to kind of get a balance back, but now kind of turn it in the direction that I want it to go in, now that I have a good chunk of the other side of my life kind of figured out. So whether you've been watching for 10 days or 10 years, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the support. I say it all the time, but none of this IRL wrestling, none of this fucking Chris Danger, but like nothing like that happens without you guys. So I hope you have an amazing 2025. Somehow we continue to push the envelope year after year after all this time. And I'm incredibly grateful after that. But as long as I got breath in my body, I'm coming for it all. I'm coming for it all. Love you guys. Have a happy new year. Stay tuned in on all the social platforms and all that stuff and whatnot. I'll see you next time. Peace.